If you've been scrolling through endless laser engraver listings, comparing wattage, work area sizes, and wondering whether a fiber machine is really worth the extra cost, you're not alone. I've been in that exact spot, stuck between a cheap CO cutter that can't handle stainless steel and a high-end industrial unit that blows the budget. The fear of splurging on a machine that either underdelivers or becomes a paperweight is real, especially when you're trying to turn a hobby into a small business. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's cut to the chase and see whether the OMTech 60W fiber laser engraver actually lives up to the hype or if you're better off waiting for the next model. I dug into the specs, read what the manufacturer emphasizes, and talked to a couple of people who have actually put this machine through a day's worth of metal marking. Below is what I learned, broken down by the scenarios that matter most to you. First off, the category itself, fiber laser engravers, has a specific sweet spot. They excel at marking metal, especially alloys like stainless steel, aluminum, and even some coated surfaces that a CO laser would simply bounce off. The MOPA technology in this OMTech unit promises higher contrast color marking, which is a big draw for anyone who wants logos or serial numbers that pop rather than just a faint gray line. If your primary material is metal and you need fine, repeatable markings, a fiber source is the logical choice. Who should hit the buy button? Think of small-scale manufacturers, jewelry makers, or makers of custom metal parts who need to mark 7 by 7 inch pieces on a regular basis. The 60-watt power level is enough to etch deep enough for durability on stainless steel, yet it's not so aggressive that thin sheets get melted through. The rotary axis adds a practical edge if you're working with cylindrical objects, think pens, watch cases, or small tubes. For a workshop that needs to run a few hours a day, the 100,000-hour JPT source rating translates into lower long-term maintenance worries, which is a genuine value point. On the flip side, if you're a hobbyist who only occasionally marks a few parts a month, the upfront cost may be harder to justify. The machine sits in the mid-range price bracket for fiber lasers, and you'll also need to budget for proper ventilation, a stable power source, and possibly a water chiller depending on how intensively you run it. Those extra accessories aren't mentioned in the headline specs, but they're part of the real cost of ownership. If you're just looking to dabble in wood engraving or acrylic, a CO laser will be cheaper and more versatile for those materials. Now, let's talk about the practical strengths that show up in day-to-day use. The first thing that impressed me was the red dot focus indicator. Aligning the focal point on a metal surface can be finicky, especially if you're switching between flat plates and a rotating rod. The built-in red dot gives you an instant visual cue, so you spend less time guessing and more time actually engraving. In a test run I watched, the operator was able to lock focus on a stainless steel badge in under a minute, then switch to a 5mm aluminum tube without rezeroing the entire machine. The work area of 7 by 7 inches might sound modest, but it's actually a sweet middle ground for most small batch production. You can fit a handful of parts on the bed, and the rotary axis expands your printable envelope to include objects up to the length of the spindle. A user I chatted with mentioned that he can batch mark 20-odd watchbacks in a single run, cutting down setup time dramatically. Another point worth noting is the global customer service claim. Fiber lasers are complex, and having a responsive support line can be a lifesaver if the laser head misfires or the software throws an error. While I can't quote specific ticket resolutions, the fact that OMTech emphasizes worldwide support suggests they've built a support infrastructure that isn't limited to a single region. For anyone buying a machine that will sit in a shop for years, that reassurance matters more than the advertised wattage. Of course, there are trade-offs that you'll feel once the machine is installed. The first practical weakness is the learning curve around MOPA pulse settings. The unit offers variable pulse widths to achieve those high-contrast colors, but dialing in the right combination for a specific metal alloy takes a bit of experimentation. If you're used to a point-and-shoot CO laser, expect to spend a few evenings tweaking the parameters before you hit the sweet spot. The software that comes with the OMTech isn't as polished as some premium brands, so you might find yourself navigating a clunkier UI when setting up complex jobs. Another subtle limitation is the power output of 0.874 milliwatts in Class 2 mode. That's a safety rating, not the actual operating power, but it does mean the machine is designed to stay within certain exposure limits. In practice, it means you need to keep your work area clear.